So I was getting a board down from my lumber rack, and once I pulled it out of the way, I noticed these strips of oak laying up there. Trying to remember where they came from, but I don't remember, and it really doesn't matter. And I'm not going to put the strips back up on the rack to go through this again. To me, they're too nice to throw away, so the only option left is to make something out of them. And this size of wood right here is going to be good for making segments. They're about 1 inch wide and 5/8 thick and a little over 31 inches long. I've sketched out a vase, and there should be plenty of wood to make that. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. Here's the vase that I'm going to make. There are 11 rows of segments with 12 segments in each row. Here is one single segment. Now we have all 12 segments. And this is about what the vase should look like. Time to cut some segments. Blowing up the rings. Oh, if I could only do it this fast. And that just tightened right up. I use my little hammer here. Push them all down. And then the final snug up here. So there it is. The joints are perfect. And I'm not going to make you watch every one of these. I'll come back after I have about 6 rings glued together and I'll show you where we're at. Once I get maybe 3 rings, I will actually start gluing this up to form the vase. And this is number 4. So what I'm going to do is just flatten this surface. It's pretty flat, but I want to make sure that there's no steps in any of the joints. I'll use my 14-inch disc sander over here. It's going to be noisy, but you'll see what I'm doing, and I don't think we'll need to see the rest of them. So I'm going to start my dust collector. I have the first ring that goes onto the base in these coal jaws. In my tailstock, it will center this. Tighten it with the tailstock. Just turn it just a little bit. Make sure that glue gets in there nice and even. So I'll take this out tomorrow. I have 3 other rings glued right now. I may do 2 at a time. Meanwhile, I'll be gluing the rest of the rings up. And it'll be a few days in doing this. I'm not in a big hurry. This is row 11. The last one of the oak that I'm going to glue up. I think I will be putting a contrasting color on the very top. Here's the rest of the rings. Over on my lathe I have the base and 3 rings that are glued on, and as soon as I get this glued together I'll move over there and show you the process of turning in stages. Otherwise I'm not going to glue all 11 rings on it and try to turn the inside. And I'll show you that shortly as soon as we get this ring glued together. the glue off here, and there we have another nice ring ready to go. Okay, over here on the lathe, at 1,000 RPMs there. I'm going to go ahead and do some scraping down here. So I'll take the scraper and try to clean this up, get it ready to sand. I ended up using my cold jaws in the tailstock to glue all the rings on. I let the glue dry for about 40 minutes before gluing another ring on. So now, give it a little more pressure. Looks plenty flat. Let that sit for a while. So I feel the shape developing here, and I just need to get all the joints down where they're turned to each other, and it'll be pretty darn close. The top ring I haven't got there yet, but the two other ones are looking good. I'll get this flattened off. I'll glue 3 more on it, but once I have those 3 on there, I will be using my steady rest out here. This is getting out there a little bit farther than I like to turn it without any support. And this is number 9. This is out here at 7 inches from the bottom. So I went ahead and put my steady rest in place. I have 4 rows on the inside. I'll screw those up, get them blended, and then I will make a walnut ring for the very top. Okay, this is going to be the segmented ring I'm putting on top. So here's the walnut ring that I put up on top. It also has 12 segments in it. I sort of hand-picked the pieces. I cut a few extra because the grain was pretty special in this piece that I cut up. And especially on the outside is where I really wanted to have the prettiest grain, because that's what you're really going to see contrasting with the oak. I haven't turned this yet. I'm just going to go ahead and finish turning the inside, finish sanding it, then I will have a support that holds this while I turn the outside. The sanding's not going to be real exciting. I'm going to just use sandpaper. I'll be reaching in here. You won't be able to see very much. I'll hang my dust collector over here. It's going to make noise, but basically I really can't get in there with my 2-inch sanding disc. So about 300. Start with 80 grit. I'm going to go ahead and finish the outside. And what I have here in my tailstock is this disc with a little taper on it. It's in a chuck, and I have an arbor with a 1x8 thread ball bearing, and I'll put this in there and just apply just a little pressure, and this will support the turning, because it's sticking out here over 8 inches now, and this will keep it in place while I finish the shape here. 1100 RPMs, that should work good. Take some more off here until we reach this area and see what that looks like. Alright, nice fresh burr on this, and it should cut good. There we go. There. Alright, it's time to sand. I finished sanding to 1200 grit. This left the wood almost polished. Alright, I'm going to brush some sanding sealer on. So I don't think I've really shown how I apply my lacquer when I spray it. This already has multiple coats on. I just went over the last coat after it sat for quite some time with Scotch-Brite. So once I do that, what I like to do is put a light spray on here. It's almost like an overspray, and that will dry really quick, but it also gives something for the lacquer to grab a hold of. And on this being round like that, and I want to spray it all at once, this kind of helps me keep from having runs and drips. So when I do that, I start with it under power. And I'll just go over it like that, and that has pretty much got some lacquer on everything. There's not much on it. And it dries really fast, so right now it's ready to put a nice coat on there. So now I'll just hang on to the tail end of this and I'll turn it by hand. And now I'm going to get a coat on here that leaves a nice shine, and I'm not too worried about that running. Almost all the way around. That's all the way around now. And we'll see, this might be the end of spraying this on, and I will probably let it set till tomorrow, Scotch-Brite it, and then polish it out. So that's how I spray my lacquer on my turnings. So I'm just finishing going over this with Scotch-Brite. I did do it under power like this, lightly going across it, just in case there's any flecks or bugs or dust or anything that might have got on it. So now I plan on using the abrasive paste. I've sort of gotten addicted to using this with a lacquer finish especially. There. This piece of walnut really looks nice. That's it. Okay, so I have the outside polished. I have the inside polished. The only thing left to do is do a little work here on this recess. I'll just round it over a little bit and get it all smoothed up. So I'll use my coal jaws. I have this non-slip padded material. That'll fit over here. It'll protect the top and the inside of the turning. So what I'll do is just barely snug this up, just to hold it. So I have this little block of wood, same material glued onto it. I'll put it against the base, bring my tailstock up, and I'll use that to apply a little bit of pressure. And I'll finish tightening up these jaws in here. Okay, let's see how true it runs. That's pretty good. Okay, I'll start out with my 3/8 bowl gouge. I'll just gently take that off. But I want to get all of the rest of this sanded and get a finish on it. I'm going to put that in reverse. That way I can reach right here. So I pulled the tailstock back, and I think this is pretty secure. I'll start out real slow. Here's the finished oak turning. It ended up almost 8 inches tall. It's 6 1/4 across the top, and the bottom is 3 7/8. I recut the strip so I could have the nice grain showing and not be the glue joint. You can see that nice grain here. Using it this way, it was a lot better than if I would have went the other way. This would have all just been flat grain and it would have been rather plain looking. I finished it with lacquer, and then I used my abrasive paste and polish to do the final finish. I'm glad I finally used those strips of oak. I think it turned out just fine. Here's the inside. You can see that same grain in there. And that piece of walnut on the bottom is also a very, very pretty piece of wood. I hope you enjoyed the process of turning scraps into what I think is a pretty vase. I'd like to thank everyone for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And a special thanks to all my subscribers. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. If you're new to my channel and you feel so inclined, please consider subscribing. Thanks again, and until the next time, I'll see you later.